First, we welcome back to the program. Well, let's see. He's second in the Wall Street Journal NBC poll in terms of candidates that would run for the Republican nomination. That would be Donald Trump. Mr. Trump, welcome back, sir.
Hello, Sean. But I've always heard that if you're really successful, the big success, not Romney where he made, a certain amount of money, a relatively small amount of money by running a fund for a little while. I'm talking about real big success, that you can't run for high political office because you've done too many deals. Look at Obama. His only deal was Tony Rezko. That was the only deal he did. And if you did that deal, you'd be in big trouble.
I'd be in jail.
If anybody did that deal, they'd be in, what did he do? This guy Rezko gives him a piece of land for a very low price so that he can expand his house, destroyed his other piece of land, because, when you do that, you really hurt the piece of land you have. And how it's very interesting. When that happened, and when I first heard that, I said, well, that's the end of his candidacy, and he'll be lucky if he gets away with just that. And the press just wiped it over like it was nothing. But that was the only deal he ever did.
Now, what do you make? So much has been made over the fact that you have come out and said, release the birth certificate. The latest news is that you have launched your own investigation in Hawaii, and you said you can't believe what we're finding there. What are you finding?
And also what you're not finding. As an example, I can go to the hospital that you were born, and I can find out who your doctor was, how much your parents paid to have you, a wonderful day for this country, how much your parents paid the doctor, how much they paid the hospital, what room number you were born in, all of the different things, right?
Metropolitan Hospital, New York. I have.
Good.
Yep.
I can't do that in Hawaii. And his own family doesn't know the hospital he was born in Hawaii. He's got a grandmother that said he was born in Kenya and she was there. There's a whole thing. And then they always talk about the newspaper articles. Well, the newspaper articles were a week later, and they were put in by the grandparents because the grandparents obviously wanted him to be a U.S. citizen, because being a U.S. citizen has big advantages. Hospitalization, welfare, lots of different advantages to being a U.S. citizen. And at that time, even more so than now, people were more proud to be a U.S. citizen. So the grandparents put in 2 listings a week after he was born. That doesn't mean anything. I mean, it means, they talk about it's a conspiracy.
Do you think he was born outside the U.S.?
Well, I'll tell you what. When I first got involved, don't forget, I've been a very, very good real estate person / developer, business person. That's what my thing was. So I was never into it. I've heard about the issue for years. I actually have developed a great respect for the so-called birthers, which is a very derogatory term given by the press. It's a derogatory term. And it's a very interesting thing, Sean. I always start off when I talk about this, I always start off by saying I went to the best school and I was a very good student and I'm a smart guy and I have high aptitude and all of that, because they make the birthers into people that are not very smart.
Yeah, that's a pejorative.
And you have a lot of your friends that are actually smart people that agree with me and agree with, I think, you, that are afraid to talk about it because they don't want to be labeled a birther, because they've done such an unbelievable job. How the press, mostly the liberal press, how they've gone into this issue. I've had reporters screaming because they have no answer to some of my questions. For instance, why doesn't he give the birth certificate? Then they start screaming, he did, it's a certificate. I said, no, that's a certificate of live birth. Totally different, totally unsigned, no serial number, no nothing. That's a certificate of live birth, very little facts on it, and you can't even get a driver's license or you can't get married with a certificate.
Let me ask you this.
They think it's the same thing, Sean, and it's not. He can't produce a birth certificate. One other thing, he spent $2 million so far on trying to prove this issue, and when I say prove it, get away from it. And I'm only saying, I wish he did. I hope he has a birth certificate. I really do. I hope that he has a birth certificate, because if he has it, I'd actually be happy. If I run and if I win, I'd like to be able to run against him head up, not on this issue. But I'm starting to think that there is no. At first I thought there's probably a birth certificate. Maybe it has something on it that's not very.
How many investigators do you have in looking into this?
Well, I don't want to get into that, John, but I can tell you that it's amazing what's going on. It's amazing. And right. You know what? I don't even want to say what you're finding. How about when you don't have records to hospitals? How about where his relatives in this country, in Hawaii, how about where the relatives cannot say which hospital he was born in? One says this one, and one says that one, and then they argue.
All right, let me ask you
There's
this.
Something wrong. There's something going on.
All right, so you've touched issues that many Republicans have been timid over. One is this birth issue. The second is, you mentioned Rezko. You know, all throughout the campaign, I said journalism in 2008 in this country died. As I went out there and I examined the relationship of him and Jeremiah Wright, who fortified him, who inspired him.
Terrible.
I went through the Bill Ayers and the Bernadine Dorn issue in great detail.
And Bill Ayers, in my opinion, wrote the first book, which was a genius book, and the second book was average.